Hi everyone, my name is Tiffany. Welcome back, or welcome if you've never been here before. Today I am starting my romance takeover light versus dark readathon vlog. So, I have gone over the books that I hope to get to during this readathon in my August TBR, but I want to run through them again in relation to the prompts that I want to hit, because in this readathon there are going to be light and dark prompts based on the team that you are in alignment with. I have chosen the dark side, and there will also be gray prompts. So I'm definitely going to share this first one because it's easy to get out of the way and throw the prompts up so that you can follow along with me. And that is Priest by Simone. Okay, I have been meaning to get to this. This is definitely on the dark prompt side, and I'm just ready to see what everybody's been talking about. I cannot wait to get into this book. I also have books on here where I'm not sure how the prompt is gonna fit because I haven't read them, and you know, people have been kind. They haven't given up too much. I do remember Jen saying with Does It Hurt by H.D. Carlton that there are a lot of light prompts in this, which I find intriguing because this is supposed to be a dark captive thriller, dubious. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to read it. It is a book club book pick for 2 clubs that I want to be a part of this month. It was a 6-star read for Jen, so I'm definitely going to be getting into Does It Hurt. I'm not sure what prompt it's going to fit, but we're going to make it work. Next, kind of in the same vein, I definitely want to read Ante Up by Christina C. Jones. This is Mafia-esque, I've heard. I'm not sure what prompts this is going to feel either, but I've been meaning to get to this book, and I know that it's set in Vegas. I believe this has a fierce heroine. There are some dark past familial situations going on in here, and so we'll see where this fits in with the readathon. I also expect to be thoroughly influenced along the way, so we'll see how this pans out. Next, I'm hoping for my bully and psychopath, prompts, Even If It Hurts by Mariano. I've been meaning to get to this since Nikki talked about this being one of her favorites of the year so far, and I'm just ready for another coercive, heady hero from Mariano. I love them so much. The horror. I cannot wait for this. And then I have, for age gap, and I know this is like a student-teacher dynamic, also an author I want to get to before San Antonio, I've got Blurry by Hercules. Yes, age gap is probably going to be the only one that's going to fill it. I mean, let's just refer to this. You have it, but I don't. Yeah, I'm thinking age gap for one of the gray prompts. This is definitely going to hit that. Maybe new adult. I don't know if it's student teacher high school or student teacher college, so maybe I can throw that in there as well. Definitely. Okay, next for Mafia, I really want to get to Owned by a Sinner by Michelle Hurd. This was going around during the Mafia Romance Readathon, so I am excited to get to it. I'm not sure if it's capped or captive. And I do have another book for that I may get to. The Smut Club book club pick is The Pageant by Lilith Vincent, and that is a reverse harem mafia captive situation, so I might get into that one as well. I'm kind of excited, and it should knock out a few prompts, so I'm just gonna get into it. I think though I am gonna start with Ante Up by Christina C. Jones. I have work today. I will be able to read this physically as well as the ebook because it's on KU, and I have the audiobook for it. So, I mean, I love all forms, and we're gonna get into them today. I'm gonna start with this, try to hit some during work, but I'll be back when I have thoughts. I'm not that far in, but I can already tell that this is a one-night stand situation, which is a light prompt. But I might be a loophole master and call her an assassin, because the first line of this book is "I shot him." Asha survived an abusive son of a gun of a father that terrorized her family and gambled away their livelihood. The only thing that he left her was the game of poker. And I will say that this opens with that backstory. We're brought very quickly into the present, where we learn that she's a cocktail waitress at a casino with an exclusive poker table. And she does have a knack for Texas Hold'em. Sidebar, I love the game of poker. I love that it is a game of probability, but the odds can be swayed if you can read the table and lean into that data. So I really enjoyed reading her play. I think it gave me a lot of clues as to her character, aside from the backstory, like within the present. She isn't a showboater. She plays her hand, and she does lean into how she presents as a woman at the table, the demeanor of the players. She's measured, and I really respected that about her. It was a good game. I love poker. And in that game, she meets the hero King, who is fine, confident, and has a very assessing gaze. And it's her prowess at the table that really draws him in. In fact, after she wins his money, she sees him again at the bar, sort of picks him up, and it leads to this whirlwind one-night stand of luxury. He is really a dominant and no-nonsense kind of hero. He doesn't want her timid. And the morning after, she finds herself in this beautiful penthouse. Okay, room service, the way that people are treating her when she's checking out is just all counter to what she's used to. I mean, Asha is a woman that is the sole caretaker for her mother, who is sick. She's constantly putting out fires from her younger brother that is exhibiting gambling addiction tendencies that they dealt with their father. I mean, she's a one-woman show, just trying to freaking stay afloat and survive, with a dream to enter into a poker tournament, but she can't seem to save up the freaking buy-in money because she's constantly getting her brother out of these little like squabbles. So this night that she has with King is just a dream-like one-off, okay? She's not expecting anything of it. However, quickly she learns that King owns the casino that she works in, and he's also King, a member of a very prominent Black family in Vegas who started out with criminal ties but has now cleaned up their money, and they have an incredible amount of influence. He's well known. And so I'm at the part where she figures out who he is, okay? And he's pushing his weight around, making light of the time that they had together, and she's about to snap back. So I jumped out, okay, because I don't want to get too far without checking in. So far, I'm enjoying this. And they're gonna go head to head. I'm very interested in seeing what King's backstory is, because he's alpha through and through, but there has to be a crack in there somewhere. Obviously, there's already sexual tension between them and intrigue, but I'm just interested in learning more and how they're gonna be, I don't know, forced to kind of run into each other, being that it looks like her job might not be it. My bad, my camera's trying to die on me. I'm just wanting to know what the forced proximity element is going to be, what's gonna thrust them together, because she just clapped back at him at work and I think she might lose it. So I will be back when I have more thoughts. I'm thoroughly entertained by them. I can't wait to read more. I am coming to you after having learned that there are points associated with this readathon based on posts, and there'll be a winner announced. I had no idea, okay? I was just playing around, but now I'm gonna be focused on getting points on the board for the dark side. And I know it's friendly competition, but I just feel like that went right over my head. And words like points, winner, gold stars even, it just does something to me. I'm still upset with my kindergarten teacher who threatened to take away my gold star for the day for not sharing. Okay, the audacity. So I just don't want to be the one that's not pulling their weight, okay? I will be happy for whoever wins, but I need to do my part. That's all I'm saying. I was gobsmacked by that. I don't know how I missed that. So I have finished Annie up and I've started Priest. I'm sure you'll see the B-roll that I've gotten. It's been sparse because I've just been reading, but Ante up. So with this book, I think she accomplishes a lot, okay? Where I was wondering how they were going to be thrust together, and her dream of entering a tournament happens, and it is associated with King, which throws them into a sort of business relationship while they're dealing with all of this chemistry that she believes is more, that she wants him to state as more, but he is incapable of sharing his emotions and his feelings based on his past hurt. So they both have these issues with trust that I thoroughly enjoyed, because normally the push and pull of angst when it isn't done well can be annoying, and this felt like it was just the natural evolution or unraveling of them finally learning to trust each other. His past hurt reinforces why he does not want to let her in. And there's an aspect about her that reminded me of a discussion that we were having during Smut Club, centered around like billionaire romances. And I remember Cheyenne mentioning like just the frustration, because I've had it too, when you have a heroine who's not willing to accept the gifts that the hero is giving her. Like, take the gift if you want it, okay? In this book, I love how Christina C. Jones does it, because it's not that she's unwilling to take his help, it's that she's hell-bent on settling the score. She wants to know what she can do to pay him back. And although he says she doesn't owe him anything, because he has this compulsion to help her in this book that I love, there's a quote in here that I wish I grabbed, but I was listening to it at the time. And she says something to the effect of, men always having a price that women are paying, and whether King knows it or not, he has one. And I love how he shows her that his kindness does not have to be repaid. And she shows him that he can let his walls down and allow someone to come in. I thoroughly enjoyed that aspect about this, how normally I'm looking for the parallel within the Steam, but here it really was in the game of poker. The sort of emotional checking and betting that they do in this. And his perplexing just draw towards her. He can't figure out what it is, and yet he cannot get enough. I will say that Asha is dealing with an abusive ex. I mean, there's a lot of heavy themes in this book. And so the third act conflict for me was resolved a bit quickly, a bit coincidentally, and it was explained expositionally. So I didn't really get to see it. It wrapped up, you know, real tight, nice French braid of a situation. And that kind of took me out of the story, although I let it go. You know, a hero like King does have a lot of influence, so it's not completely far-fetched, but I wanted a few more beats when it came to the third act conflict, or the big bad, as Jessin from Jessin Reads Romance would put it. I love when she says that. But there definitely is a big bad in this, and the stakes on that felt pretty high throughout. So for it to resolve so quickly, I was a little underwhelmed with only that aspect of this. So I rated this a 4. I really enjoyed them. King, I wish there were more books in this world. I'm hearing, because this is my first Christina C. Jones, that this has a darker edge to it compared to her other books. So I'm still looking forward to the culmination of everything, especially after this, but I really enjoyed this. Then I picked up Priest by Sierra Simone. I had to just get into this. I needed to know. And you know, I'm not that far in, but I loved, my bad, there is a theme of me not being ready on this channel. My camera is always low on juice. I apologize. Okay, we're back in. But what I was getting at is the fact that when they first meet, their meet cute, they don't fully see each other. However, the impression that is made is immensely felt. It's a regular Tuesday for Tyler Bell of confessions, and in walks Poppy, this enigma with a sultry voice and red lip. I mean, she's an enigma because she's an heiress who's cut ties with her family, highly educated, and confessing about being a stripper. And she's also virginal. And just something aside from the romance that I really enjoyed was how she talks about the power she felt of being desired. That ability to be impactful in a sensual way is really what fed her. I thoroughly enjoyed that, okay? And I do not blame Tyler for weakening. And it seems like this is an awestruck moment, that this isn't something that's in the norm for him. And Poppy keeps popping up, okay? They've had more than one run-in at this point, and he's rattled by it. Rattled because he's so hyper-focused on her physical beauty. He's intrigued by her story. She's also kind of at a place where she's in need of a spiritual awakening, you know, so she's joining the church, and it's vexing for him. He's mentioned it somehow awakening the man he used to be. I hope there's some more on that, okay? Can we know a little bit more about that, Tyler? But I really enjoyed their meet cute. And so I'm interested in seeing what makes the levy break on this. And I shouldn't be surprised at all at how she is depicting their connection because it's Sierra Simone. But I'm definitely in it. I'm just going to continue reading. I will be back when I have more thoughts. But Poppy's definitely running from a past. And I think she's found a savior who feels guilty because he feels like a wolf that just wants to devour her, and he's keeping that at bay. So already I'm seeing this sort of like, like the beating of the flesh. You know, he's working out overtime, throwing himself into his service, and she keeps showing up. And it's just like this lurking, gnawing thing so far. So we will see where it goes, and I will be back when I have more thoughts. So it's been kind of a minute since I've updated you. Since I've finished Priest, I've gotten through like a couple quickies just to hit some prompts, and I've also been enjoying all of the live shows. Like every single day, the reading sprints have been fun to just check in and talk about what we're reading. I've definitely been influenced to add a couple to my TBR, so I've loved those. But let me wrap up Priest for you. Oh my gosh. If smudges bother you, I apologize. Tyler and I have been out and about, okay? But this was just so moving to me. because the inner struggle that he faces in relation to his vow and his yearn for Poppy made for an angsty read, because it's almost as if he's being pulled in two different directions in terms of purpose. And I just love the way that she depicted that. I mean, he strikes this balance of being stern, kinky, and possessive, while also being sweet and thoughtful. And the steam in this, in very sacred places, okay, almost felt like an awakening of its own. Now, that could bother some if you are Catholic and that is a touchstone for you. Know before going in, if you're considering picking this up, that altars, okay, oils are used in a not so, I want to say sacred way, but honestly, the way in which she writes this, it felt as such to me. But that's, my perspective. Just know before going in, the steam read very ritualistic to me, almost as if it was like a bridging of wills. Anyway, I enjoyed that this was from his perspective, because I felt like I got the full weight of him sort of having to recast his calling to God. Does he have to serve God as a priest? What of all of the plans that he had for his congregation in light of this insatiable pull that he's not willing to give up? It just was so moving. And there were moments where I wanted Poppy's perspective. I wanted to understand how she was processing being the sort of wedge between Tyler and his faith. And also, I did want to understand some of the decisions that she was making in terms of her past, quite literally entering the chat. However, I do think that Tyler steering the ship made for a compelling read. And I rated this 5 stars. I mean, there's something about Sierra Simone's writing that's almost atmospheric. Like, I always feel drafted into the sting of the emotions. And for me, whenever I'm reading something forbidden, I want to feel like the social stigma just doesn't equate to the connection that's been built. And Sierra Simone delivered on that. I absolutely love this. I got my hands, okay, on the rest of the OG covers. I don't even know where I have put them, if I've put them up. But I definitely got my hands on these because I got that tip, okay, from Reading Sprints that the original covers will be going away. So I'm so excited that I nabbed those. Next, after Priest, which was like a lot, okay? It went there, it had depth. I picked up Taurus by Gemma James. And this I wanted to read for the BDSM prompt, okay? Taboo, also age gap. And it does hit a few light tropes in royalty, because this is a mystical and fantastical land where a princess loses her parents early on in a plane crash, and her power-hungry uncle becomes her guardian. And one of the political moves that he makes is to sell her hand to the Zodiac Brotherhood. And they are characterized as sort of titans of industry. Of course, there are 12, where they reign on a secluded island. They are each head of their houses named after zodiac signs. And I believe he sells her hand at the age of 9 in the first book. And when she's 18, she goes to Zodiac Island, where she will spend 1 month with each brother, and at the end of the year, her hand in marriage will be auctioned off to the highest bidder. There goes the taboo element, because when she spends this month with each hero, they have complete control over her body and how things are gonna go, how he runs his household, and it's sort of a trial period for the marriage. And in this second book, I will say that the dynamic between them was very master-slave. He is cold and exacting, and there are secrets as to why that is that are revealed, as well as plot points as to where we're going in terms of why they are compelled to marry in this way. What are the mystical reasons and omens that govern the Zodiac Brotherhood? I found that to be compelling. But as far as the romance, it just feels like edging with this novella series. Like, I really want this entire series to be one book, or I just need to sit down and read all of them, because I believe they're all out at this point. There are still emotional connections that she has with the first hero that she spent time with in Aries, and, you know, the head of Scorpio. Up until this point, each hero has really embodied some of the aspects within their zodiac signs. So I have enjoyed that, okay? But this steam was very coercive and dubious in a cruel way in this one. And as a means of punishment and correction. And so although I enjoyed the reveals as to why he is the way he is, it just wasn't my favorite. I did enjoy the sort of sneaking around, and I am excited for the rest of the series, but like I said, it just feels like edging when it comes to the romance, and I need her to pick it up. So I just need to sit down and read like the entire thing straight through, or at least 3 or 4 in one go. I'm rating this a 3 because of how I felt afterwards. Now, after that, I read The Widow and the Wolf. Let me make sure I'm getting this right. I think it's Adrian Blue. Yes, The Widow and the Wolf by Adrian Blue. I wanted to get the paranormal, okay, prompt with this one. And this really is like a paranormal, sweet and cute workplace romance. Another light prompt. I mean, I'm just adding them on there, okay? They keep popping up. It's happening. I don't think it matters as long as we're reading what we want and we're having a good time. I've just noticed. I've just noticed. Anyway, this is set in a world where humans and monsters cohabitate. And at the opening of this book, the werewolves within this world are in heat, okay? It is a time where they court and hunt down their mates. So the human women of the world take their 2 weeks off. But our heroine is recently widowed and can't really afford to do that. And she is also intrigued by her werewolf boss, who's smitten with her. And so I did enjoy the cinnamon roll of a hero. I like how he courts her. However, it is very insta-lovey. I mean, things progress very quickly. It's heartwarming in the sense that she does believe that she can't conceive because of her previous marriage, and the hero really sees her. But things were moving really quickly in this book, okay? I did like rate it 2.5 when I did my little mini review on Instagram, just because it was too much too fast. I do love novellas, okay? I love a spicy romp, and this was sweet, but it just too quick. And I don't want to say not enough pages, because I've read some that have been able to accomplish that, okay? It just wasn't enough on the page for me. I was not buying the pace at which things were progressing in this book. It was cute, but a little too insta-levy for me. So, next, I finally want to pick up Even If It Hurts by San Mariano. I have a lot of books on this shelf, okay? I'm very excited to get into this. This is going to be another psychopath hero from her. So I'm going to get into this. I'll be back when I have more thoughts. Hopefully I can check in before I have like 5 books read. I promise I'm going to try to vlog a little bit more. I'm going to try to give you some beat by beat updates. Hopefully with this one. I'll see you soon. To fill you in on Stalked But Never Afraid by Nicole Dykes before we get into Even If It Hurts by San Mariano. I am easily influenced, and she has been freaking promoting this series on her Instagram, and the posts are hot, okay? I had to get into it. This also hits Stalker and MM Romance, so I was very excited, and I did notice fairly quickly that it's not the first within the series, but it was easy for me to catch up and follow along. This follows Brooke. He is an influencer and also a cam boy, and he is dealing with a very obsessive and sinister follower. And his best friend Summer is a heroine from a previous book, realizes the red flags and sends him to a safe haven. And it's there where this story sort of opens up. And Brooke is very guarded. He doesn't want to be seen as a victim. In fact, he's really not down for all of like the kumbaya attempts to figure out what's really going on and what has happened. In his mind, it's small, it's minuscule, it's nothing in compared to what his friend endured in a previous book, and he really just got scared. However, he's really slow to trust and isn't at all like excited about being probed by the prickly, and frank ballbuster Roman. He is a detective. He's also the brother of the man that he is now staying with and able to start over because of. And Roman, I love the way that he sees Brooke as this like chiseled Cupid, but also the kind of man that could give him a tongue lashing. Roman also has a backstory that has led to him wanting to be a cop, and so he's very adamant about getting the clues that he needs to figure out who's been stalking Brooke. And again, Brooke doesn't want to open up to Roman. He doesn't trust him. He's tired of being judged for being a sex worker. He's tired of being scared. He doesn't want to be caught up in fear. And again, he doesn't want to be seen as a victim. It's very important to him to be strong and capable because of the trauma that he endured while growing up and because of the stigma of his profession. And I just loved the push and pull, the tit for tat between them, the angst, Brooke's ire, the banter. It's not a grumpy sunshine, okay? It's a grumpy grump. And it was just so compelling to read this pretty like suspenseful plot that was unfolding in terms of like what this stalker was going to do next. And it almost felt like a bodyguard romance in that Roman is really trying to protect Brooke, and a lot of Brooke's assumptions about Roman because of the fact that he is a big, like burly guy who resembles the boys that used to beat him up in high school. He slowly starts to figure out that Roman isn't straight, he isn't judgmental, that he can really hold space for his fears and for his trauma, and to kind of have each of them save one another within this book was just like, it was delightful to read. I really loved this theme. I loved how, in increments, it slowly builds between them in terms of trust and what they do mechanically during this theme. And so I ended up rating this a 3.5. I loved the banter. I mean, I'm gonna pull up a quote just so that you can see how Roman sees him. He says, "If anything, I want to see him grow even more infuriated. I want to see him lash out and get so frustrated he throws everything he has at me. I want to feast on his cankerous intensity." I just loved that between them, because it takes some time for Brooke to actually open up and let Roman help him. And so I'm really interested in this series to the point where I'm going to start from the beginning, because the sort of setup for this safe haven just intrigues me, that this is like a place for those who are dealing with domestic violence, who are starting over, who are on the run, and they seem to be, mostly MM. So I'm here for it. Next, I am still reeling from this book. This does hit bully, it hit psychopath. I knew that. I was hoping it was gonna hit new adult, but we're dealing with a high school setting and situation with the heroine Aubrey having to struggle with situations that are far from juvenile because she is the sole provider for her household and the sole caretaker for her mother, who is sick with cancer, and they're taking the holistic route. She starts this book out with a very strong and sound sense of self, doesn't have the time for the frivolous things that the students around her are concerned with. Quite frankly, the rich kids are concerned with. And so she doesn't really balk from her inner knowing and the things that are important to her. She doesn't have the time. And that's really where this book starts off. That is how this crazy chain reaction of events occurs, because she gets into a petty disagreement with Ante, who is the queen bee and narcissistic psychopath at her school. And because of this, altercation, if you will, in the beginning of the book, Ante sets her target and crosshairs on Aubrey and seeks Dare, her boyfriend, on her. She wants Aubrey to pay. And the way that she feels to be fitting is to have Dare pretend to fall in love with her, take her virginity, and cripple the girl's emotions. A little dark and twisty. And what I liked about this book was that it is from Aubrey's perspective. I think we get one or two from Dare. And so I was not sure what was the game, what was true, when he actually fell. All I had to rely and go on was what Dare was telling Aubrey. And so that slow depreciation of self and descent into her falling for him and wanting to believe so badly in what he is telling her, despite what she is seeing, despite all of the evidence that is counter to what he says, was just like cringy in a very thriller San Mariano way. I mean, this had the markers of those calculating, coercive measures that her sinister heroes take to corner the heroine into being dependent on them. Dare does that very slowly, laying that trap of trust. And oh my gosh, I do like how he avenges her honor. It's very poetic. The hands that are used to humiliate her are maimed and defaced. I loved that touch. But I walked away from this book not really trusting or knowing if Aubrey was safe with Dare. Okay? Because I'm always gonna hold every psychopath hero of San Mariano's up to Carter Mahoney from Untouchable. I just am. And very similarly, I do that with Zoe as well. And so this differs in that Dare is sort of cruel in his approach. The difference between him and Carter is that Dare is willing to forego her happiness if it means he can keep and have her. And Carter was willing to bend and course correct to see Zoe's joy. In fact, he orchestrates that. And so that's the difference here. And there also isn't Zoe's curiosity in Aubrey. I mean, she's really along for the ride. As she falls, she slowly starts to depreciate in terms of self, and he really does become her world. In all but one area, she loses every single time she goes head to head with him. There is a bonkers third act in this book where I was hoping that she was going to make him grovel, because she is or she does reach a point where she's a lot more forthcoming with her displeasure in the situation. However, you know, she's willing to let him take the reins no matter how crazy that makes her look to other people, as long as she can have him. And so I think that this was a very riveting read. However, it wasn't that romantic. And I kind of liked that about this. You know, she has a knack for making this almost like romantic horror in a way, because of the lengths that the hero is willing to go to capture what they desire. And so I was just gobsmacked at where this went in the third act, the level of trust that he was requiring of her. I really felt like it was touch and go there for a minute, okay? And I wanted to see him grovel, and I don't think that he does. However, Aubrey gets what she wants in the end. And it's almost laced with a tinge of heartbreak and almost like dubious happiness because of what it costs her. I think that's embodied in another character that's in this book, who is very much the light versus Dare's dark, that he will not let be a part of Aubrey's life. And so I enjoyed reading this, okay? I could not put it down. And like I said, it's riveting, not so romantic. Not sure if Aubrey is safe with Dare, but I did enjoy this. It's very different from Untouchable. I mean, I still think that Cartier and Zoe reign supreme, but it's a different kind of story. She takes it there with the psychopathy, even though it's not harped on in terms of like the gray matter, the mechanics of it all. There is mention of how Dare is very different from his girlfriend, Anai. He talks about feeling superior to her in that he's more vigilant. He isn't caught up in the excitement or his emotions as much as Anai, although she shouldn't be capable of that. She's impulsive and he's more painstaking. And so there is a clear distinction between the two. So I did enjoy that, but I'm rambling at this point. I enjoyed this. I highly suggest you check the trigger warnings. There is some dubious and non-consent in this, as well as things done in the heroine's sleep, unbeknownst to her, and things of the like. It does get gory. It gets a little violent as well. And then some of that is just his way of showing his devotion to her. So I was okay with that. But yes, I rated this a 4 just because of that element that I was kind of looking for. I was looking for it in The Descent as well by Sam Mariano, where I just want the hero, even with his psychopathy, to be able to bend. But Dare isn't that kind of hero. And I think that adds to what's sort of special about this. It is twisted. This was just twisted. I think she wrote her butt off. I enjoyed it. And because of this book, okay, I was on Instagram and I realized that the next book that I picked, since we're like whittling down to the last day here, should be one that's gonna knock out some prompts, okay? So I think I wanna go with The Pageant by, was it Lilith Vincent? That's gonna be the Smut Club book club pick, and that's gonna hit reverse harem, mafia, as well as captive. So I think I'm gonna go with that. I'm in the mood, okay? Sam Mariano primed me for that, and I think I only have time to get that in, which is really sad because I wanted to read Does It Hurt, but I'm just gonna pick it up right after this readathon. So I will be back when I have thoughts on that. have finished the pageant. And just in the nick of time, because I have to get to work, I'm going to be tuning into the last live show there. I will say there are definite trigger warnings for this book. One being miscarriage. It happens earlier on. It is a part of the heroine's backstory, and it is felt on the page. Also, these heroes are not sweet and cuddly. This is truly a captive situation. 16 women are kidnapped and kept in cages and forced to perform physical and mental tasks under duress. If you've ever seen Kiss the Girls, okay, with Morgan Freeman, it's very that. In that film, the killer collects women that exhibit a sort of excellence. And in this book, Constantine, who is Pageant, okay, the head of the Bratva, he is looking for a bride, and he believes that this twisted game that he's concocted is the way to find her. He and his two right-hand men, Elijah, who's sort of the trained gun, and Kirill, who I interpret as the id. If we want to get Freudian about it, he is feral, raw, and depraved. All of them are very cruel and calculating, and up until the point that they kidnap the heroine, they're in control of the game. And so I'm not going to go entirely in because this is a book club book, but I will say that Lilia, the heroine, surprised me. This is not her first rodeo when it comes to dealing with men like them, okay? She is a mafia princess, and I respected her prowess, her ability to corral the group of captive women, and also for the fact that she's very cunning. I liked how her intrigue with them almost read as debasing to her, since they truly are monsters. But she's able to placate and cripple them, and I just loved that aspect about this. I will say though, for Smut Club, I do think that the steam may fall flat for the group. I'm not sure. There are 3 poignant moments that I'm like latching onto. The steam that we do get is twisted and it's dubious, and this really read like a mental chess game, you know, and the romance aspect of this reverse harem is really just being set up. This has a high octane cliffhanger without a happy for now, but there is clarity that's reached and declarations are made for, I'll say, a part of the whole within this reverse harem. But again, like, it feels like it's just sort of being set up how the group of them are gonna really make this work. I'm excited to get into discussion, okay? Because I want to see how this book is received. It really isn't for everyone. I'm going to say it was for me, though, because I'm jumping into Crowned. The way that this ended, and also the way that the flashbacks were really actually used to reinforce the present, really drafted me into Lilia's story. Okay, I want to know what she does next, and she's really done with her crap at this point, so I want to see how this comes together. I'm just awestruck by this dark and twisted game, this world, and like, what the hell I just read. I have to continue. So I'm gonna rate this a 4, and I'm hoping that the romance aspect is like developed and delivered on in Crowned. I'm really excited about it. Like, I'm glad that I picked this up. The story I just find riveting. I'm just kind of like obsessed. Anyway, I'm sorry. So this book should be taking care of reverse harem, mafia, and captive for me, and it blacks out my board. I definitely have some light prompts on this board, but I just had so much fun doing this readathon, like seeing what everybody was reading, seeing what everybody was posting. The point system activated something within me, so I'm living like a readathon with teams, okay? I'm hoping we do this again, but in a different way. I'm gonna have to like DM Jen. If she needs help with anything, I am going to lend it because this was so much fun. And I think I'm going to leave this here. I want to thank you for joining me. Please consider subscribing and sticking around, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.